Hi guys, and welcome back to the Noah Films channel. So today I'm going to be talking about something that I think a lot of people are going through right now, especially if you're starting out in your filmmaking journey, and that is how to make your film look better on no budget. Before we get into the video, please do give us a subscribe. We do a lot of different tutorials just like this one, both on filmmaking and acting. And we also have a little podcast where we talk about our experiences and how we got to where we are now. Ironically, today I'm now on my iPhone mic because my little road links got mixed up and it seems I've taken one of Marshall's receivers, so it's not connecting, which is something you're probably going to have to do if you're making something on no budget. So as you may or may not know, over the last 6 to 7 years, we've been creating multiple short films and web series, and pretty much this has almost always been on no budget. So I guess you could say we're pretty used to this by now. But whatever budget you're working on, there are a number of different ways to make your film look better without having the budget to do so. And it's just being a bit smarter about how you do things. And this is something that we did on our web series Social Murderer, which actually took home a Best Production Design win at the British Web Awards, which was pretty crazy for me because I'm like, well, we didn't have a budget. Yes, let's get straight into it. Now, what does it mean to work on no budget? So I think a lot of people have different explanations for this. For us, it literally means that we did not have any money saved up or we didn't have any access to any funding initiatives, but we just wanted to create something and we just wanted to do it. No budget often means you're doing a lot of collaborating with friends, seeing what locations you already have available to you, anything you already own equipment-wise or who you can borrow from, and occasionally at times putting a little bit of whatever money you do have into getting a few extra bits and pieces here and there to help things look better and be better overall. Being filmmakers and actors and running Noah Films, it doesn't allow us much time to go get a full-time job, and that's honestly something I don't think I could do myself, is work full-time and something I don't like. But obviously if you're able to work full-time and get that income to then put into your films, that's a super awesome thing to do as well. But yeah, if you're working part-time or casual, you don't really have much extra money. What is production design? It is the set that you're filming in, that your characters are in. So if I'm filming in a room, what does the wall look like? What does the bed look like? What do the tables look like? What's in the room? All of this is production design. I think it's a very overlooked one when it comes to independent filmmaking because people focus, of course, on the actors and the story, and they kind of just forget about what's around them. Now, I know this might seem like a little bit of a cheesy one to do, but this is a very cheap way to make, for example, an interesting room setup. So I'm going to show you a before and after, and this is from our current web series called Broke Actor. We had to film in a bedroom, and this needed to be a young girl's bedroom. And of course, we have my bedroom available, so decided to film there. But my room is quite bland, I guess you could say, that the walls are very white. And white walls, I would say, is something that you should definitely try to avoid. If that's the space you have available to you only has white walls, then do whatever you can to cover them up. Because white walls in a film is a very clear example that this is a very inexperienced film and it just doesn't look nice. What we ended up doing was postering up the whole wall. This just provided a much nicer backdrop for the actress. I also looked into the bed, like how would this character do her bed up? What kind of colors would she choose? What kind of bedspread would she have? I just had a look around for what I did have, anything extra. You could go to like Kmart and get something relatively cheap, or maybe that's like Walmart in America. But yeah, just like seeing what you can do to dress up a space is going to really make your film look so much better. And yeah, some cheap ways to do that, of course, is the posters. That's just getting a few posters printed out. I really like to look at the colors of the poster and like what kind of poster, like what's on it. So not just anything, but something that makes sense for the scene and the character. If you don't have much of a budget, just get a list of things that you would like to use and then see who you know who has access to that. And then if you really need something, maybe go to Kmart or a dollar store or somewhere where it's not going to cost you too much, and see what you can get from there as well. Sometimes actors or film crew or friends are happy to lend whatever spaces they have. So it's just about talking and collaborating, seeing how you can dress up a space to look more interesting than it is. Another space I had to dress up in Broke Actor was we had access to this kitchen space, but it was meant to look like a bar, and it was very wide, and I was like, this does not look like a bar, like what the scene is. I drew in Canva what I wanted and what I needed, so I could just visualize it a lot better. And then I went to Spotlight and I got the cheapest fabric by meter that I could. And then I just used some of that to sort of board up the walls. And then I was like, okay, what's in a bar? So we had this sink, and I'm like, maybe I can pretend that's like a beer keg. So just cover it with a bunch of bottles. A lot of people actually just have spare bottles lying around that have been drunk and they're just in the cupboard. So I had a few of those. Our DOP also brought in some of the bottles he owned. And I also went to Coles, which is our grocery store. And I was like, okay, let me just get a few bottles of, it's a bottle that looks like it could be an alcohol bottle, but it was like cordial or something. Because nobody's gonna know, because it's like a backdrop to the scene. So I did that. I also went to the Party Warehouse or the dollar store and I got some really cheap plastic wine glasses. And I just put them around everywhere. Lighting as well, like adding lamps or like different kind of lights is another great way to dress it up. And then you can go to like IKEA, you can get some cheaper stuff from there. Or just see what you already own and have access to.
One vodka. Actually, no, make that two. One vodka martini. Actually, no, make that two.
Oftentimes when I see indie filmmakers putting stills out for their film, it's one of the biggest things I see is that costuming has not been touched or even thought about. And again, it's one of those little details that if you really like think about it, can make your film look so much better. And I think this is something that you should also talk to your actors about in terms of what kind of character they think they are and what kind of clothes they think their character would wear, but also making sure it's in line with the film and your vision as a director. Because sometimes actors might suggest things and it doesn't really work. You know, it's just something they had in the closet. Get a costume designer on board or just do it yourself and just think about what the film is, what kind of palette you're using, see if you own anything. But a cheap way that we get costuming is actually going to places like Vinnie's, because generally they have some cheaper options and it's great to just go like costume shopping. I would say like Kmart, but I'm not sure what the prices are like nowadays. But go have a look, like go costume shopping and like get inspired. When you think about a scene, you think about your overall film, put together a color palette for how you see this film. Is it a kind of like a moody, kind of sad film and you kind of want more of a maybe blues and a few browns or purples and blues? Or, you know, is it a very like cheerful comedy and you want some bright greens and like pinks and all these bright colors? Think about your color palette and then you can incorporate that color palette into your production design and into your costuming, and that is just going to add these layers into the film to make it look like wow. Okay, like someone watching it goes, wow, they've like thought about every detail here. All of this is so cohesive, it works together so nicely. I don't know if you're filming this yourself or you actually have someone on board to film it, but the shots that you use can really elevate your film or make it look like it's just something that was just kind of thrown together by people who aren't very experienced. So a way to figure out what kind of shots you should use, what would you compare your film to? What are things you've watched where you'd go, oh, it's kind of like that? Or what do you watch that you really like the style of? And think about what shots they use. And you know, you can go on film sites like, I think it's Film Grab, where you can actually download some of these screenshots and put it onto a storyboard. And it's just going to give you an idea of how to structure your film visually. You know, if you just get to set on the day, like, oh, yeah, okay, so we need to film this dialogue scene of the two actors. Let's just get a wide, a mid, and a mid. Like, okay, so you've got your coverage, but what's interesting about that? I think a lot of newer filmmakers love to use wides and mids of characters, but that is quite boring unless there's a purpose behind it. You know, some indie films have a really beautiful wide, but they've really thought about the details of that wide and it looks like art. So the shots you use could really make or break your project. There are so many actors out there, it's actually not funny. I think in the past couple years alone, or since social media has kind of taken off, there's been even more, like a lot. There's so many actors, which means you have access to a lot of actors, many of whom are willing to do independent projects that could be getting submitted to festivals without the pay. Now, of course, if you have the budget, please pay your actors. But if you don't have the budget, you can still hire good actors so long as you're willing to offer them something in return. So, you know, you're going to offer them a proper reel. You're actually going to give them that reel, whether the film comes out or not, an IMDB credit. Like, you've got to offer them something for their time. So put out some casting listings, whether that's on social media or going into a casting site. A lot of these are not that expensive because you're not going to need it for very long, maybe like a month. And find some proper actors for your film. Having the right actors on board who really embody characters and really know how to get a great performance across is ultimately going to really elevate your film and elevate your story. Well, those are my tips on how to make your film look miles better on no budget. It is very possible, and I think we are the proof of that. I've been working on no budget for a very long time, and trust me, sometimes you get over it and you're like, oh my gosh, I just want a budget. But the nature of creating and being productive means sometimes the budget isn't always going to be there. And if you just wait for the budget, it's probably never going to happen. So sometimes you just have to suck it up and do what you can and just create and put it out there. And trust that that's going to come back to you at some point in the future. Thanks for watching. Please like and do leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we'll see you in the next video.